All right. We are live. We are officially live. Welcome to the live stream, everyone. How's it going, friends? So glad to see some of you here again this week. Oh, am I lagging again right from the get-go, huh? That's how you know it's a Make Anything stream. Anyways, hopefully that'll pass quickly and we'll be able to get along with things. Moving on, today we're making a brand new tree, which is pretty exciting. And the tree is not a tree, it's the Leaky Hydrant by René von Koolwijk. I don't actually know how to pronounce his last name. René, if you're here, I apologize. I'm pretty sure I got it, I'm certain I got it wrong in the announcement video because I thought the J was an L, so I called you Koolwijk. But what's important is you do have cool in your name, that is undoubted. And therefore, you're awesome. You're cool. All right. So, now I guess before we get into this newest, Tippi Tree skin, I'll give you guys a quick look at the one we finished off last week, because I actually finished it. So let me get out of the way here. I forget to do that, but here it is. Roots and all. And whoops, we've got a leaf missing. This might not be the most updated. Let's see. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, I did some other stuff there. Let's see if the timeline's cool at the end. Enhydri. You got the Sidewinder. That's great. So that's, I'm guessing you're Jen's son. You got yourself that prize printer that she won on your behalf, I'm guessing. Sounds like it. And, awesome. I'm glad I got you guys. And pretty quickly, too. Whenever I team up with another company, you know, some things are out of my hands. I like having control of things, so I'm glad everything's working out. What's going on here? Is Fusion crashing already? Is it? It looks pretty frozen to me. But that's cool. We can chat for a little bit. Honestly, I just had lunch, so I'm digesting. Settling in. I jumped straight onto the stream. Takes longer than I expect to prepare. Wow, looks like we really crashed Fusion right off the bat. That's okay. Good thing we're working on a simpler tree today. Less chances of this happening. Let me open up my little keyboard application so you guys can see what I'm typing. Aditya, bring back the Karate Master. I mean, I do have some, I have some more lazy Printmaster tips, so he could make an appearance. Although I don't know. I think that's one of those videos, some people loved it, some people couldn't even get through it. Understandably. Alright. Well, I crashed it. Guess I'll restart it real quick. That's your first lesson in Fusion 360, a reminder to save often and always. You're never safe. Alright, what's everyone up to? We've got a lot of midnight dwellers popping in. I'm sorry, I mean, this is a very convenient time for me, but I know it's not for everyone. I do what I can to make it work for people, and I have been doing streams at the same time every week right now just because I've been sleeping in and staying up late. So 4 p.m. my time is streaming time for me. So, hope we're all doing well. All right, it's open again. I don't know, should I try not to crash it? It's not really up to me, is it? Well, how about this? I'll show you the real thing. I was going to save it for an actual video where I reveal all the Tippi Tree skins and some of the other cool stuff I've been working on with Tippi Tree. I've got some other extras that will be coming out. And just as a reminder and to clarify, if anyone has purchased Tippi Tree on My Mini Factory, you can always go back to that page and download it again and get the most recent updates. So once these skins are on there, they're included in Tippi Tree, so you don't have to pay extra for those. Okay, yeah, let me show you our finished result, what this Tippi Tree looks like. It's so cool. You're gonna love it, guys. Yes, I've got another camera here that's really nice. Okay. I don't know, I can try to do a fancy reveal, but there's not really much except for, look how awesome it is! I printed it out in several colors. Look at that. Got all the detail in there. Those mustache lines, remember those? The one thing I forgot to do during the live stream were these lines around the eye. I realized it just in time to throw those in there. I think those look great. And yeah, I separated the leaves and the rocks so that you can glue them in separately and get a little bit of accent colors, which I think does a whole lot of good with this model. This looks so fun. Yeah, I'm absolutely blown away. I love how much detail you can capture on vertical faces with the 3D printer. Because yeah, the nozzle size is 0.4 millimeters, but with these kinds of vertical surfaces, you can get a lot more detail because the layer height can go down to less than the width of a human hair, as people always like to compare things. It's always compared to human hair, right? Yeah, I love it. I think it came out awesome, and today we're doing another really fun design. This is the one that I personally selected as a winner because I thought it would be so fun. It is the Leaky Hydrant. We're just gonna go ahead and bring it in right now, actually. Let's see how I can do that. Yes, Cheese Colt, I got the cheese pin for you. I have to do something to satisfy you, but that's about all you'll get today. There's no more cheese in the house. I had to eat it all. Y'all kept making me hungry for cheese. All right, there it is, the Leaky Hydrant. Looks like I didn't split up the image, but that's okay. Whoops, let me jump into the corner again. Yeah, so I'm gonna bring the canvas in again. Although, I think I'm not gonna try to trace it perfectly like I did with the Tiki Tree. It's kind of a different design challenge. And I'm just gonna keep this on the side here and use it as a reference. And kind of just eyeball it. I'm gonna change some things too, which I'll talk about. Yeah, I just noticed that this drawing has like more detail than the sample render that René also included. We can bring that in as well, actually. I never thought about this, but canvases, you can kind of just throw a canvas to the side of your design if you just want to have a reference inside of your model. Yeah, I've never done that, but it's handy, right? You just bring this here. We've got a sketch on our left. We've got this render on our right. And then we've got our actual piece here. So yeah, as you can see here, the drawing has ridges, kind of like some fire hydrants have. But the render here is very smooth. And I actually like the smoothness of it. I'm not being lazy here or trying to make it easier. I just think it looks really nice and simple and playful, and that's one of the things I loved about this design. It took something as ordinary and common as a fire hydrant and made it fun and playful. And now this may look super easy. It's a pretty simple design. If you look at this, there's a lot of extrusion. It's extrude and revolve, those two tools, which are basically the most powerful tools in Fusion. And it looks like you can create this entire design just using revolve and extrude. But that's not what we're going to be doing. I'm going to give myself a little extra challenge, not go the easy way. I want to do this in the best way. And I think the best way to do this is actually to split it up into several parts so that no supports are required. So if you look here, you can see there's definitely parts sticking straight out. And that, you would have very minimal support, but support nonetheless. And I just like coming up with versions that don't require support. And my idea, I think, will actually end up looking better as well. So let me show you what I'm trying to do right here. Let's switch back to the camera. Bring out the sketchbook. Sorry about this watermark. I didn't even realize that was there the other time. So let's see if I can do this. It's kind of awkward reaching around. Okay. Yes, okay. So we got a fire hydrant, right? There's a few things I'm gonna do. First of all, the top of the fire hydrant, I want it to stay more like the original Tippi Tree, so I'm not gonna round it necessarily. It's still gonna have the 4 posts and maybe a little bit of rounding here. Ooh, yeah, you can kind of see it, right? You'll still have the 4 posts and then be the fire hydrant, which might look a little against the original design, but functionally, I think we at least need that. And I don't know, I feel like some fire hydrants have some extra action going on the top, so maybe it's not that weird. But we're gonna split up this model. So we've got a seam here. And this seam is where I'm gonna have this be a threaded part. So if we're doing X-ray vision, there's gonna be a screw on the inside here. The top part is gonna screw on top of this middle section. And this middle section is actually gonna be split in half. Like that. So this screw is actually gonna be 2 parts that you bring together and then screw on the top to fasten it all into place. And we're going to do that on the bottom too. There's another little element here where we can hide another seam at the base. And that will get screwed in as well. So we're actually going to do some threaded parts today. Not so simple, but not too difficult either. Hopefully after you watch this, you'll be able to do it yourself. So yeah, we're gonna have a seam here. That way we can print, well, now I'm wondering, these side elements, do we want to screw those on too? Well, first of all, these ones on the side are going to be coming straight up. So the idea here is that these parts are going to be printed flat on the bed like this. So the sides of the fire hydrant are going straight up instead, and they won't require support material. I don't know, I'm drawing it weird, but are you starting to get the idea? Yeah, the 4 pegs can be embedded in the hydrant. That is kind of what I was thinking at first, Davissimo. But by screwing it into place, it's more sturdy, I think, and it should work with more printers because it's not a press fit, which requires you to have really exact tolerances, which I guess you do need to have to print Tippi Tree in the first place, but I like the idea of having them thread into place. Anyways, these side ones are going to be printing straight up, so they won't need to be threaded. But here on this seam, there's going to be some that are, once again, you're going to get half of it on one piece and the other half on the other piece. The question is if I should make that threads so that you can put a cap on top. I think I will. We're doing threads already, so might as well put threads everywhere, and it'll be kind of fun to assemble and print out. I know I said the winning models should be able to print as a single color, single print, but that was my constraint. I'm the boss. So that means I get to change the rules. So, yeah, there's my scrappy drawing. That's about all I need to draw just to think things out. Now we can bring it into Fusion and try to make this thing happen. I guess I don't really need the original tree much at all except for this very top section. So let's start by getting into the swing of things. I need to make this thing red to start visualizing. So yeah, you can hit A to open this appearance panel. And we're just going to bring in this red color. Fusion has all sorts of materials, so if we wanted to, we could actually look up paint instead of, like, I'm using a glossy plastic, but if we want this to look like a fire hydrant, oh, maybe we want a red metallic paint. Looks the same here, but in the render, it'll have that little metallic quality to it. And once we've got all the elements of the fire hydrant, that'll be cool. So let's do that. All these extra colors are from the other Tippi Tree, so we can just right click and delete all unused. Carl, Taryn, thanks for the super chats, the cheesy chats. Excellent. I mean, you kind of get the metallic quality from here, just in the way that it reflects, right? Okay, I think I'm just gonna start modeling the fire hydrant right on top of it, and then we'll delete the rest once we can. There's gonna be a little something I do here, which, let's do it. Okay, we're starting on the mid plane. This is a fire hydrant, it's a big tube, so the first thing we're gonna do is start with that revolve. I'm gonna use the project tool by hitting P, and I'll project the bottom of the tree, as well as this part right here. Some of the important elements that I might want to reference, because we do want this tree to still be the same height, or this hydrant. I don't know if I should call it a tree still. It's still the game Tippi Tree, but it's the fire hydrant skin. Anyways, I'm gonna have the dome end right here so that the pieces can still fit in. And since this is a revolve, we only need a half circle. So the way I usually do that is I actually draw a line here, straight out to the right, and then I can use the tangent arc to create a tangent dome right here. And yeah, we're eyeballing it, so how wide do I want it to go? I don't know. Here we'll do a straight down line and select both of those and make that tangent as well. So this is actually a quarter circle. Okay. I feel like we can make some big moves pretty quickly. This looks like it's pretty much a constant width straight cylinder. So this is just gonna go straight down all the way to meet up with the bottom here. And we just have to figure out how wide we want it to be. And with revolve, it can be really deceiving because you're only modeling half of it. So when you actually do the revolve, sometimes things look a lot fatter than you intended. But luckily, we can make those changes really quickly in a parametric software like Fusion. So let's quickly do that revolve. Selected it up there. I'm going to do it as a new body for now. Just trying to get a look at things. Is that like a good proportion? I think it's a little too fat, like I was saying. I want it a little more slender, although a little bit of stumpy chunkiness is okay because it makes it look a little more friendly, like a toy. We could make it the exact same width as the tree, but no, I want these parts to kind of be sticking out. How am I gonna do this? I guess it does need to be wider, because the cutouts have to be in the dome. Or they have to go all the way down. I think this edge, the cylinder should at least cover the entire base. So maybe we want it fat. See that, how it surrounds the corners? Then this top looks kind of weird still. Maybe I do want to cut, yeah. Maybe I do want to cut everything out of the dome. Let's see what happens if instead we bring this up. I'll just delete all those constraints. Try to lift this. Make that tangent again. Ah, everything's going crazy. I guess by bringing this upwards, it'll look taller, or it'll look more slender because it's taller. Let's see what that looks like. Whoa, what's going on? It's not even centered. This is what happens when you just start without being fully awake. I might make a lot of mistakes today. Now, we want this to be coincident with the origin, that way it is centered and lined up with the hydrant. So this could start to work. We're gonna have to cut out some stuff in the middle here, which is a bit of a bummer. We like that dome. We want some of that dome at the top, right? Yeah, a recess like in the render. So this one, it needs a little more cutout than in the render here, because this, you wouldn't be able to put a tree in sideways, for example. I need to make sure that you can still stick a tree in all the different ways. So let's leave this for now, because what I'm actually going to do is make a tool. I'm also going to remove all these extra branches and folders and stuff. We don't need that for this hydrant. We just have the tree and our hydrant. Thanks for the super chat, some person. Your question is if you can remix your own Tippi Tree and give it out for free on Thingiverse. I ask that you don't, because I am still trying to promote this and possibly take it to market. So I have to protect my what's the word for it? My intellectual property. That's the correct word. Yeah, so just for the sake of making it easier to license to companies and stuff, if I do end up going that route, it is an exclusivity license right now, so you can't remix it as is. Although, of course, you're free to make them for yourself. If you want to design your own Tippi Tree for you and for gifting to other people, as long as you're not selling it or putting it on Thingiverse or whatever, it's totally fine. Who knows, maybe that'll change down the line. I am conflicted a bit because I like giving things away for free, but I also would like to see how far I can take Tippi Tree and what we can do with it. Anyways, let's make this tool to cut out the top part from the hydrant. So the way I'm going to do that is by creating this cylinder. I'll go a little bit above the tree and it'll go down right to this chamfer, I think. Well, no, it's going to go to this point. Whoops, and the other, there we go. Goes through everything. We'll make that a new body first. Now we're going to cut our Tippi Tree out from this body, like so, although we can keep the tool. So now if we hide the tree, you see we basically have a negative mold, once again, of this top part, and we can use that to cut out from the hydrant right here. As you can see, there's already some weird parts where it doesn't quite overlap. Let's see what happens if we cut it out. Cut this away. Boom. All right, that's definitely not going to be enough to grab onto our leaves, right? So I guess we have to raise up the dome even more and maybe cut more away from it. Yeah, sorry. Around the skins too, I agree that it would be awesome to have all these different kinds of skins. So if there's enough demand, which it seems like there is, I might keep making skins even if they're not the contest winners. Whether they're my own designs or I can reach out to some of the other ones that I would have liked to see and see if people want their designs still made into a Tippi Tree. So this is kind of what the shape would have to look like for this to work, which is pretty weird. And I think I have to pull it up even further. We have to make it so that this part is at least the height of... So I think we got to take it all the way like this, so that the entire top part is included in this dome. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So that's kind of as good as we're going to be able to get, I think. We can take away the tree base, but like that's kind of what we might have to do. Anything else and you won't be able to stick leaves on in certain ways. Although it does look pretty weird. Like I'm thinking if we did go with this, I would just fill it this. Oh, there we go. That kind of works. There. That looks super weird, right? It's either that or we just do this exact thing but keep these as squares. Which maybe we should do because this already looks kind of unfamiliar to a fire hydrant. So let's see if we still bring back the tree base. Yeah, I think we're going to keep the whole circles. Kind of do a hybrid. we'll do this with the 10mm fillet. And then this part, can we do a push-pull on this to sink it underneath? Uh-oh, it's moving everything. New offset. Just trying to offset this downwards. Like that, yeah. Okay, there we go. What do you think? Is that acceptable for the top of the hydrant? If the rest looks very much like a hydrant? It is kind of weird. But it's not too bad. I could make this fillet a little larger. Maybe that's all I gotta do. Oh, but then you have so much sticking out. And this circle is also like the flat spot. Let's do it like 15. Does 15 work? I think that could work. We'll sink this a little lower, all the way down into it. There we go. That's I think the best combination we're going to be able to get. If I make the fillet so much larger, well, it would kind of still work. Because there's part of me that wants this top to be a complete half circle. But this flat section here will provide a little bit of extra connection for the Tippi Tree. It'll be a little closer to the original. Making it taller is not out of the question. Although, I don't think it's necessary, so I probably won't do it. Even though I do like the slender look here, this one is more chunky. This kind of looks like this, you know? There's some similarity there. This little circle here on top is bothering me, so I'm gonna extend my tool to cut that away as well. I mean, we can always make it taller later on. That won't be too hard. So for now, I'm gonna keep it the same height and everything. I like to keep it as close to the original as possible, as long as it's not sacrificing something else too much. I think this is a good middle ground. So let's delete the roots. We definitely don't need that for a fire hydrant. Well, I could make a base that's like a puddle or something. That might be interesting. All right, so we're gonna cut down. We don't wanna cut the hydrant, just the tree. There we go. And let's combine all of this right now. Join tool. Boop. Let's make it that fire hydrant red. Now you see the metallic quality of this render. Looks like we're in some sort of a warehouse. Yeah, the thing is, if we made it skinnier, then these things would get even more stretched out. Maybe I'll mess around with this just a little more. I'm pretty okay with how it is now, but just in case, before we take it too far, we can try a few different things. I should give this dimensions as well. See, at this point, it's too skinny, because this goes all the way down. I could like make it blend in, but then it would get weird. But maybe we make it just, maybe we make it exactly the minimum skinniness it can be while absorbing this, which I'm gonna just play around with. I mean, let's give this dimensions actually. So let's see, 20. What does 20 look like? And the height here, let's fix that. Oh, right now it's 99.99, so we gotta make it 100. All right, 20 is not enough. So we're gonna make that a little bit wider. 22. That might be too much. 22 is basically where we were before. It's crazy how things come down to single millimeters. This is something they were already instilling in me in design school, like when it comes to a fillet, a 1mm fillet versus a 2mm fillet versus a 1.5mm fillet, they have a different feel, and it's something to consider. I think that's pretty good. These come just close to the edge. And it looks a little more round. There we go. I'm going to call that our middle ground. Yeah. Oh, what's going on here? They popped out. We have to move our cut in 2 directions as well here. There we go. Okay. Took a minute to make that decision. We're already half an hour in, but no worries. Now we're moving on. Let's see, let's just do a new revolve here. So we can start throwing in the base and everything. I'm just gonna make these squares for now. I'll add the fillets later on as separate features, even though I could round it in the sketch, you know? There's a few different ways to go about things always. Here we'll have this kind of lip. There's actually 2 lips, but that's not where we're gonna do the seam. It's gonna be like a fake seam with the real seam right underneath. Wait a minute, how do I do this? I might have to round it in the sketch. Or yeah. I think I'm pretty much gonna be basing a lot of my design off of this render, because that's kind of what drew me into this design. Yeah, I am gonna make these, well, let's see. I notice myself always just like stopping mid-sentence very often. When I do these live streams, I catch some of my little quirks that I didn't necessarily realize I have, but I'm not as great at explaining things as sometimes I wish I would be. Okay. Again, this is something I'll probably adjust a few times after I preview it. I'm just trying to get a general idea of how wide I want all these different rings to be. We've got one more here. And I will round them. So let's just see what this looks like. See, that's too wide, right? Although there are bolts here that are going to be holding it together, so it does need space for the bolts. Maybe it's not too wide. Or maybe the bolts should be tiny. Hold on. I'm going to look up some images of real fire hydrants just to make sure I don't make any silly mistakes. I do still want to base the idea off of the drawing more or less, but helps to see what the real thing looks like, just like we did with our tiki eventually. So, they're definitely skinnier and taller. I already knew that, but we're kind of going with the short look to make it more playful. Speaking of playful, there we go. Those are some playful fire hydrants. We're not doing anything crazy like that, but I guess if you print out your own leaky hydrant, you can always paint it to look like Mario. All right, this one's fun to reference because it is a kind of a toy for a dog. This is a dog park fire hydrant. That is literally designed for dogs to pee on. Anyways, we can see that there's one larger. Oh, you know what? I considered this and thought about it. This giant opening is only on one side. And that seems to be true for all of them, because you're only going to connect one fire hose, right? I don't know what the other tubes are for. Actually, just like I was very underinformed with the tiki, I'm a little underinformed in the function of fire hydrants. Is it just for connecting different size hoses? Or is it just the big one facing the street in case you need to flood the street? You open that one. There's very few of the photos of them actually in use. Looks like the fire hose connects to the side there, and the middle one is for flooding. Okay. I think I will follow that and only put it on one side. Which means that can be the one that the cap screws on. So the seam will be down the middle here. Yeah. Although, okay. Should I have the seam be down the middle here or on the sides here? I guess this is technically the front view, so you wouldn't want a seam there, right? But these are smaller, so if we have to make little threaded pieces there, it might be a little more annoying. It's more threaded pieces. We're going to have two things that screw on versus the one thing that screws on in the middle here. And another thing is these screws, they do seem pretty tiny, but the lip does look kind of wide. Can I design it so it also sprays water? That would be hilarious. Some kind of contraption where when the Tippi Tree falls over, it just sprays water everywhere. Outdoor version of the game. I don't think I'll do that today, but that's an interesting concept. Okay. That actually generally looks okay, I think. So what I'm going to do here, I want this to be a fake seam, like I said. The way I'm going to do that, since these are 3 millimeters, I'm going to create a line here to close it off and make that 1.5 millimeters. Here we're just going to put the tiniest seam, 0.01, basically nothing, but I need to have a space there for Fusion to recognize them as two separate seams. We'll make both of these 4. Actually, the bottom I want to be kind of thicker, so we'll make that 5. 3, 4, 5. They're all different, which might annoy people, but there we go. Now, let's see. This is going to be printed as one part straight up. This is going to be printed as one part straight up. Only the middle is going to be printed on its side. So I need to consider that here. This is already an overhang that we don't want. Let's draw a line straight up here so we can reference the edge of our hydrant, because I want to be able to make chamfers pretty much just like that. Let's just do 45 to make it pretty simple, even though that's going to look unlike a fire hydrant. Doesn't look that weird, right? And if we put one here, oh no, do we need one here? No, this is going to be printed flat right there. So all we have to do for this one is maybe a chamfer here. 1. Well, let's do it on both. Wait. No. Let's do a chamfer on all of these seams. So, what's 1.5 divided by 2? 1.75. We'll do that, and then we can fillet these. 1.5 each or so. That one as well. All right. This design's gonna have a lot more fillets compared to our Tiki Tree. This one's gonna be all about the fillets. So here, 2.8 seems to make it just about a full fillet right there. Do I want a full fillet? I don't know. Might want to just match this. That kind of looks nice. And then we'll do a 1.5 here as well. The base is going to be pretty much flat, but we can do a small chamfer. I always like to do at least 0.4 or 0.6, just in case the bottom of the print is a little bit squashed on the build plate. That'll kind of counteract the so-called elephant foot, where it's a little too wide on the bottom. Same reason all the Tippi Tree leaves have chamfers on the edges. That, and I just think it looks nicer. Less pointy. You don't want pointy parts on a kid's toy. All right. That's most of it. I might still want to make this lip a little smaller, but we got to fit the bolts on there, so never mind. I'm trying to fight the actual design of a fire hydrant, which I shouldn't do. I'm wondering if I should make this a little thicker, maybe. Joel, you're right. I am going to split this up, but not yet. But don't worry, this is going to be split into several parts, so there won't be supports required for this, for example. We'll get there once I have the general stuff figured out. Still thinking about where I want to put the seam. Caleb, I haven't used Onshape much. I played around with it a little tiny bit, but it was basically at the same time that I started using Fusion. I was like looking at how I could transition away from SolidWorks, and Onshape was one that I considered, but Fusion just seemed a little nicer for me, and it's got that free hobbyist license that is so handy. So I'm still a Fusion fanboy for the time being. Okay. I guess I can still start adding some of the little elements like the bolts and everything before we split this up and thread it. As excited as I am to do that stuff. Let's throw some bolts on here. So, I'll project both of these just to kind of, well, it's so that I can reference both of these edges and find the actual midpoint. So I'll create a line from this point to this point, just so that I can snap a point right here to the center. And then all we've got to do is add a polygon. Just like that. And this is a totally fictional fire hydrant, so the actual measurement doesn't matter, but usually what I do is just draw something kind of what looks right, and then when it's like this, 4.504429, I'm like, all right, let's just make it 4.5 to soothe the OCD. And there's going to be a screw coming out the top of this as well, or at least there's kind of a different messages coming from the different renderings I got. Here you've got the bolts coming through the top and the bottom. Here you've only got the head of the nut. How complex do we want this to be? I think I want to go simpler. I think simple is the look that this is asking for. Even though all the details look so cool on the Tiki Tree, this is gonna be awesome for its own reason and for having its own style. So yeah, this is kind of fun. It's one of those designs where you can kind of just do a lot of things by feel. I do still give everything discrete measurements, but it could really you could just drag it to whatever size you want. I will inspect just to see how small we're getting here. That's a 2.5 and this whole thing is 4.5 across, so it'll still print no problem. I made one little extrusion there, and now we can use the circular pattern tool. gonna select bodies, and that's why I kept this as a new body instead of using join. Fusion by default tries to either join or cut parts, but the more tedious but often more controlled way to do things is to make everything as a new body. And then when you do want to join it together, use the combine tool. Here it's handy because we can pattern this first. Let's see, I think 7 looks good. 8 is going to be more symmetrical with this whole Tippi tree, so let's go with 8. It's nice, right? I think 8 looks good. So we'll do the screws there. Now we've got some on the bottom as well. All right, bye. Bye to the people who have to get up early tomorrow. I'm pretty excited to see that people still come back and check out the stream after it's no longer live. Streams are always fun to just kind of leave on in the background while you're doing whatever, this or that. All right, so we've got another midpoint, which coincidentally lines up right with the edge of this nut. I think that is purely a coincidence. So let's go ahead and do another polygon. We'll do it pretty much the same, but this one will be nice and large because it's holding the hydrant down to the freaking ground. So we can make that exactly 8. I think this one will have the bolts coming through because I'm pretty sure the fire hydrant would be placed on top of the bolts, which are set into the concrete, and then you put the nuts on top of it. So yeah. Some realism here, some sort of semblance of realism. So first we'll just do the nut. Nice big chunky one, 3.4. That looks pretty good. New body again, keeping it separate. And then we're gonna go back into our sketch toolbar and open up that last one because we want to use the circle as well. Here it's trying to select the face, but remember if you click and hold, it'll give you this drop-down menu so you can clarify. I'm trying to click that profile right there. We'll have this extrude from here and go up just a little bit. Now we could put a thread on here if we want to like add a fancy little detail. Maybe we will. Yeah, why not? It'll only be sticking out like that much, I think. But we can select this cylinder edge and we can create a thread. And we want to make it modeled so it actually physically models out the thread. And since it's not actually threading to anything, we can make it as tiny as we want. Well, I think 4 is good, but maybe, yeah, the thread size, make that smaller. 4.5. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun, very small, subtle detail, but I think it'll print out okay, actually, since it's vertical. That does mean we want to kind of finish the top. That is kind of an ugly looking top. And this is something we're going to be doing a lot because the actual threads we're building are going to have to be nice. So what I'll do here is I'm creating a plane through these two edges, which is also through the center of this cylinder. I'm going to sketch on that plane and basically just draw a little 45-degree triangle here that I'm going to cut out of the top. So this is almost like creating a chamfer, but you can't chamfer the top edge when it's got this whole thread action going on. So this is a workaround for that. Let's create, not letting me select the origin for some reason, but let's just project something that has a center point that's right in the center like that. Now we can select this and do a revolve cut. I didn't make that 45, so, but there you go. That's just basically how you clean up the top of the thread. Let's edit the sketch to make this 45 degrees. Whoops. And maybe we want to make it a little smaller. Just like that. Maybe even smaller. Just trying to kind of clean up this little top edge right here. Yeah, that looks fine. For this little what's it called, ornamental design. Another nice thing about not joining these bodies yet is we can, for example, add a chamfer on this edge here. That'll be a inward chamfer like that. And I think these kinds of little details are worth adding. Really, I just can't help myself. And even this edge should have a chamfer, I think. And there we go. 0.4 is a little exaggerated, but once again, that's kind of getting the cartoony look. Cartoon climax, you're asking if there's advice for a first-time 3D printer. I mean, there's so many options out there, so many great printers. I would say don't get paralyzed by the vast number of choices. But I do think if you're really new to 3D printing, it's probably a good idea to find a printer that has a large active audience online. Probably the biggest example is Creality. Ender 3 V2 by now has a huge following. Lots of people get that as their first printer, so I'm sure any kind of problem you might encounter, there's other people who have run into the same problem and hopefully documented their solutions online somewhere. This is one of those hobbies where you get really good at finding things on Google. So let's do another revolve pattern here. And this time I think I'm going to make it 6 bolts, since I think 8 would look a little too crowded. I mean, let's see what that would look like. 8, kind of works. Looks like in this drawing, it's technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 behind the hydrant. So in the drawing, he did 6. In this render, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, it looks like he did a whole bunch in this render, so it's kind of up to me. I'm going to do an even number, though. I like the look of 6, even though there's 8 up here. I don't know if that'll bother people, that it's a different number. Thank you, Maker Owen, for the reminder to save. Isn't it funny how I tell you guys to save, and then it takes me 52 minutes to actually hit the save button? It's one of those things that I'll never learn, but I think doing these live streams and getting constant reminders from you guys is probably helping. So these tiny ones, I don't think I need to do chamfers because they're so tiny, but I am going to do it anyways. I'm just going to do a little chamfer on just the top. 0.2. Well, let's chamfer it all. No harm done there. And if you just happen to have a super detailed print, it's nice that those details are in there, right? So technically, this would have to screw into another bolt on the bottom. But the way we're designing it, this is going to be against the build plate. So we can't have that. That's just one of those things that's going to be a little unrealistic for the sake of making this easier to design and print. That is a sacrifice I am willing to make. I think that's pretty good. And I just realized I'm probably going to go back here and adjust this fillet. I don't like how they are technically the same fillet, but this one looks smaller because it's going into a 45. So I'm thinking maybe I'll actually make it a larger one. Well, does that look better? I kind of like it. Actually, I think this whole little rim here, since it's kind of ornamental, I think I'm going to make it smaller. Let's go all the way back here. And I'm going to make this stick out a little less, which makes me realize I didn't even dimension everything here. So it's 25 right now. Let's see what 23 looks like. And let's also solidify these. Should I round this? I might screw things up if I change it now, so I'm just gonna dimension it as is, even though they're not perfect numbers. There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty simple and nice. Maybe 2.5. Yeah, looks good. Let's merge all this so we get that nice uniform color. I'm gonna hit join. First select the main body and then select everything else you're joining to it. Or actually you can just click and drag over everything since we wanna join everything. Boom, now it's one body. Now already looks pretty good, if you ask me. You do a quick render so I can say hello to the chat. We don't actually have to do a render right now, but it's always satisfying, right? So why not do something satisfying and do a quick render? I did download some new environments. You can actually download custom HDR environments. So these are the ones that come with Fusion 360. But if you get an HDR file, oh well, I don't know where it is. Anyways, for this one, oh, let's put it in the plaza. I love throwing the backdrops on here. It's like work that you don't have to do, and boom, it's in real life. Although, hold on. You gotta throw this guy on the ground. Why is it floating? Anyways, good enough. Do I need the 45 there if I'm printing it sideways? Oh, you know what? I wasn't gonna print this part sideways. This was gonna be the end of the part that's not printed sideways. But I could have it being part of, no, I'm gonna leave it as is. The 45 I think looks fine. I actually like how that looks. The top still looks a little weird to me, but it has to maintain the functionality of the game. That's definitely more important. Yeah, there's like little things I could do, like maybe I could round this like that and it wouldn't affect the game too much. I don't know. Do you think that looks better? Maybe. Like if we have that chamfer, fix that on the top, but in terms of just like rounding this, that wouldn't affect the game very much at all. Maybe if we just make it 5. I kind of like that. I think it looks better. If we make this a 1mm chamfer, let's see if that just, boom, rounds it out. Thank you. Sometimes Fusion just knows what you're trying to do and it helps out. Other times it fights, but what do you think? I like that. It was a very small change, but I think it somehow looks better. The way it blends into the sides here looks better for sure. Sweet. I'm gonna save. That's when I remember to save, when I do something really cool. And I'm like, yes, I want that. Own the Tippi Tree-ness, don't round it. I don't know. I'm gonna fight you on that one. Unless a lot of people say that it doesn't look as good. Also, since this is below the part that's interacting with the tree, I could fillet this as well. I'll probably throw small fillets like this on everything a little later into the modeling process. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. For now, I'm gonna keep it as is though, because that's the kind of detail work you do at the very end. Otherwise, it might interfere with some other parts of the process. Who knows? Anyways, I think we should start splitting this. Splitting is fun. So I'm gonna do a side view. I'm gonna hit P to project, and I'm gonna project right where the split is gonna be, which is right here and right here. And that's all I have to do. Maybe I'll take a line and connect these two so I can do it as a single splitting tool. Now I can go to modify, and where is that split tool? Split body. We wanna split this body, and then we can select that sketch. Whoops. Make sure to select all the lines like that. It goes all the way through and cuts it. Looks identical now, but if we go to the appearance panel, why don't we create another metallic color? Let's do kind of a silver. And we can paint that center section just so we know they're 3 separate bodies now. And we can name them too. Hydrant, bottom, or base. Hydrant, top, and this is going to be the middle, but it's also going to be split further. Let's see. Yeah, let's start doing the little, these side pieces. So the way this is done, there's a few ways to do this. I can do revolves for the rounded parts and then just do the hexagon on top. Yeah. Revolve is a really handy tool. I just love how much you can fit in a single sketch with the revolve. You can basically do the entire part. So this is kind of arbitrary for now. Looks like based on this drawing, these side ones are kind of in the middle. Although, yeah, we'll just eyeball it for now. And then let's see, let's base it off of this. There's kind of one cylinder, then it goes down, and then there's 2 little rounded cylinders. So we'll do that here as well. One bigger cylinder, and then 1 step, 2 step, and then a flat section, and we'll stick the hexagon on afterwards. This is probably a little too thick, because remember it's going to be doubled once it's revolved, and these are the smaller side hydrants, so maybe we'll make this 8 millimeters. And each of these step downs, we'll make all of these equal. So I'm holding control, selecting all of those. And then we can go up here and hit the equal constraint. So they're all the same. And maybe we want that to be 1 millimeter, 1.2 maybe. Yeah, 1.2 looks good. Well, let's see how it looks. Actually, I'm also going to mirror all of this so we can do both sides at the same time. Whoops, I forgot my own shortcut for mirror. I think it's shift slant, no? Is that the right one? Yeah. Okay, so we mirror it like that. Now we can select both of these and revolve it around this line, like so. We'll make it a new body for now. You can't tell what I'm making? I was hoping it looks a little bit like a fire hydrant by now. All right, so these could be a little larger, I guess, actually. And I might draft this to come out a little bit. Well, or I can just make it a good fillet. Based on this drawing, there's quite a nice fillet here, blending them in. A little bit of a fillet here. I mean, it's actually pretty similar, the size I chose. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. That just helps with the cartooniness. Maybe just 8.5 even. Yeah, perfect. And if we want to throw these renders already, we know these are 1.2, so that'll make it a full round if we make that 1.2. Do we want a full round? Actually, this is a smaller step, and they're not all the same. I like the way that René did it. So let's undo those equal constraints. This I'm going to make 0.6. And, well, let's see. Maybe that's it. This has a little, like, 0.6 millimeter fillet then. Should I make these 1.2 still? Or maybe just 1 millimeter? That looks pretty good. Yeah, I like it. Let's go with it. Yeah, I know they're not centered in the render. Actually, they're not centered in either of them, are they? And I noticed with the actual fire hydrants, there's several where it's like the side ones are higher. Oh, look at this. This one does have them on both sides. So it definitely looks more common to have one big one on the front. But there is a possibility that it's on both sides. And some of them, yeah, they're super off-center. Others, they're not. Whoa, here's an inside look. This is what's happening underground. That's pretty cool. Huh. So maybe I got the orientation of the screws wrong. It looks like there's nuts going, or bolts going in through the top and nuts on the bottom here. That would be underground. I did the opposite on mine, but maybe Tippi Town uses a different design for their hydrants. I like this. I'm keeping it because I like that thread, little thread detail there. Okay, so that I think is fine. Let's just add the hex on the middle here. We'll project this to make sure we get the center point to reference for the center of our polygon. And then dimension it. 6.5 seems pretty good. Just eyeball this. 2.4. That looks good. Still gonna make it a new body for now. I'm gonna give it those little chamfers, I think. Well, this one's kind of in between the size of the big one and the small one, so I'm gonna make it 0.3 millimeter chamfers. There's definitely a lot of inconsistency going on here with a lot of different sizes, but I think it's working. And you know what? It might actually, you could say it's a design feature, that all the bolts are different sizes, so you don't accidentally use this screw over here. I don't know. I'm making excuses. Let's be real. All right, let's mirror this body across this plane. Pop it on right there. And if we hide this, look at that. It's going all the way through. Yeah, I have decided, just right now, I'm gonna have the seam go through the middle here. Because this big thing is gonna be screwing on top, this part won't have a seam, and it'll hide most of the seam that is on this part. The back here, you'll have the seam all the way down, but that's not a big deal. And I think it's better than having a seam on both of these parts, which means I can just go ahead and combine all of this right now. Like so. Could throw on those fillets, but I won't do it yet. I will resist. Maybe we do move these up a little bit though. Like, oh man, that's changing everything. Let's make sure to, oh wow, they already changed. So we want these to be 1.2. This is why you dimension things, otherwise stuff starts changing without you even realizing it. So if you're a real good designer, you'll keep adding dimensions until there are no more blue lines. We've still got blue lines. That's because we haven't set the height. Once we give that a dimension, all the lines turn black. That means there are no questions left unanswered. Fusion is not required to make any guesses. You've told it exactly what every dimension is. Am I going to write proper code on the fire hydrant? That's a good question. Vertical lettering actually does appear pretty well, although this won't be vertical. This is going to be printed flat. It'll depend on how things are printed. I guess around here I can put some stuff, and around here. What does proper code look like for a fire hydrant? It would certainly be fun to just put some like P306-2. Stuff like that just makes it look more official, right? DIN 4271. That's pretty similar to what I just said, right? Is that an official code, or does that mean something to you? It might be fun to have some kind of little Easter egg, like, oh, MA, like make anything dash RK for René von Koolwijk, and the number could be the date. What's the day Tippi Tree came out? Maybe I could put the date that Tippi Tree was brought to the world or something like that. Hopeless sunshine. Finish it with a fillet frenzy. I like that idea. Let's save those fillets for the end, huh? Okay, so now we're going to do another drawing from the side here to get our final cap, or whatever it's called. Final faucet. This one should be centered, I think. Like I said, I want this one to be pretty big so it'll hide most of the seam. So to center it, I'm going to reference these two seams. Whoops. And then I can draw a line between those midpoints. And then snap this to that midpoint. Now it's centered. And now we can go ahead and start creating our rectangle. I guess we're going to do something pretty similar to the last one. There's one edge and then a bigger one. Oh yeah. This should have some consistency similar to the other edges, so I think we'll do that little 0.6 lip. Then we'll have the 1.2, and then another 1.2, although this one's smaller. We'll make this ring match this ring in diameter. So this one, if we use the inspect tool, we see that's 42.097. And since this is revolved by half, we can make this 42.097 divided by 2. Whoops. Oh. We want to divide it by 4 because that was the diameter, and we're putting in the radius here. There we go. 1.2, 1.2, 1.2. Oh wait, no. This one's not going to be 1.2. 0.6. This one kind of depends on the width we want this entire thing to be. I think we'll make it like that. Let's revolve it and see what it looks like. Maybe this is too big. This is pretty huge. Is that too big? It's definitely bigger than the drawing. I don't know. I think it looks okay. Might make it a little bit smaller. So this we can make 3, maybe. That's very little bit smaller. But I kind of like that. I want the top of this to be higher than the top of this. And I like that they're not all lined up with each other. It looks like a fire hydrant. Note, the code is only proper if they choose to print it out, the fire hydrant, in red PLA. Oh, interesting. So the colors of the hydrants represent something. That should be obvious. I mean, that makes sense. Just like the color of the curb means something. It's not just based on what the city thinks will look nice, eh? I love that I learned some pretty unrelated things while streaming. Oh wait, I think I made these 1mm fillets on the other one. Not 1.2. So there's a little bit of a straight edge. Wait, I thought I made this the same size. Did I do something wrong? Let's inspect this again. 43, oh, length. Diameter, okay. The diameter is 13.8. Whoops. So that's gonna change some things here. So 13.8 divided by 2. Okay. So let's make this larger then. 5 maybe? Maybe even 6? Boom. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I kind of want this to have a larger fillet, maybe. I know I said I'd make them the same, but I'm gonna change my mind. I'm gonna make this like 2.4. This thing, I guess I want it to stick out past this a little bit. I don't know, actually. For now, we'll just set that as is. It has to stick out enough to screw on. Actually, I think we're gonna have some fun with this. Maybe this will have an internal thread. We'll get to that. You'll see. You'll see. This bolt. Oh, I need to recreate the bolt. Did I already merge it all? Let's undo that. Uncombine. Wait, no. Yeah, okay. I was just debating if there's an easier way to do this, but we're actually just gonna go move point to point, create a copy. For the first point, I want to select the center from the back, or the center of this ring, it's the same thing. And then we can select this, bop, hit OK. I know that doesn't look right, but now we'll move again. And we'll make the pivot point the center here, hit OK, and then we can rotate that 90 degrees. And it's in place. So that's maybe a weird way to do it. You could have just done a brand new extrude and done everything like that, but that worked. Let's see. Okay. Let's see, what am I doing here? Okay. I know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna cut out the cavity here. Well, let's combine these again. So yeah, these, I'm pretty sure that was the last thing we needed to do with that. These are one part. We're gonna cut a hole into here. So this part is gonna have two screws, one coming up and one coming down. And then there's also gonna be a screw going into it this way. This is gonna be a pretty fun little part to assemble. So I'm gonna sketch on this plane. I'm gonna project this outer edge, and then I'm gonna offset that based on the clearance we wanna give our part, so it screws in more easily. And I think just 0.2 millimeters all around. It's pretty tight, but if you can print a Tippi Tree, I think that is enough of a clearance. Now we're gonna select all of this, and we're gonna cut into here, just so that it passes, just so that it goes inset into the hydrant. So it takes about 11 to go all the way in, and then we're gonna give it another 2 or 3. So yeah, let's go in 14, and let's only cut our hydrant. So now if I hide this, whoops, we gotta combine these. If I hide this, we've got this hole in here. So far, so good. John, thank you for the super chat. Your videos are fantastic and you inspire me to print new and creative things. Excellent. That's a great summary of what I aim to do on my channel. So I'm so glad that I'm succeeding. G. Powell, thank you for the super chat. Is there a common way to make a fillet look like a welding seam? Huh. I feel like for a welding seam, you would almost do a sweep. You would just sweep a circle around the edge instead. Although I'm sure you could do it with a fillet as well. As far as I know, there's no like commonly accepted way. I've never actually had to do that myself, so I never looked into it. But yeah, there's 2 ways to do that. That might be a fun thing to do here, although I'm already cutting it so close, the bolts are so close to this wall, for example, that I can't really add a fat seam here, or it would intersect with the bolts. Actually, you know what's funny? I'm just realizing these bolts, you wouldn't even be able to turn them, because they would definitely hit the edge. So these are definitely impossible bolts. The question is, do I care? I feel like normally I would, but I don't want them to be any smaller. I don't want this lip to be any larger. I mean, some people would say that is a huge mistake to let it be, but I kind of want to let it be. I kind of just like how it looks already. I could cut little circular indents out. I think some parts would have that where... Actually, you know what? You might be able to turn it. Hold on. This is totally unnecessary, but I must know now. Oh, it would be able to turn. All right, we're good. It is legal. With that, I'll save. Okay, let's keep going here with this first threaded part. So, we're actually going to split it after the fact, because when we make the threaded hole and everything, we're going to treat it as a single part before we split it. So that means, let's do a section analysis actually. I need to look at this from the inside. So there we go, section analysis. Because I actually want these to meet up. Actually, I need to do things a little bit differently. Okay. Let's see. What's the best way to do this? Okay, I know. We're gonna undo what we just did. Every now and then, you have to backtrack. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually pull this backwards to the point where I would want it to go in. So, like that. So minus 14, just as it was. Okay, I'm gonna put that there. And now on this plane, I'm gonna draw a new sketch, and I'm gonna draw both the cut out of the hydrant and the additional part here we're gonna add with the thread and everything. So first I need to project some of these lines that I need. There we go. I don't need this. I do need this. So this is gonna go in, and this has to taper because I have to remember that this part needs to be able to print. So it's gonna taper in, and then there's gonna be a thread that goes deep into the fire hydrant. It doesn't really have to go that deep. We might adjust that. Probably just be like that, kind of a stubby, fat thread. We'll make this 45 to make sure it's easily printable. And then we're gonna create the offset for the 0.2 offset, which is what we're gonna cut out. And we can select this whole chain actually, like that. All right, now I'm gonna first select all this, cut the cavity out of the hydrant. Whoops, I need to extend this. Make sure that's a closed profile. Okay, so first profile cut, we wanna go including the offset, revolve cut, and only cut into the hydrant. We're not trying to cut our bolt here. Oops, what happened? What happened? The option disappeared. All right, we got 200 people in the stream. How exciting. That seems like my number for the past few streams. I get a good solid 200. I like that it's an even number. All right, so now we've got a cutout. And now we're gonna go down to our sketch tree and reselect that. And we're also gonna revolve the inner one without this extra clearance. What is this? Okay, let's see. There we go. And we will join that with this part. Boom. So actually, if I was designing this just for myself, that would be enough to make a part that you can just glue in or even make a press fit. But we're gonna make it threaded just to make it extra fun and easy to assemble. So this is actually gonna be pretty easy. All we have to do now is go here. We can turn off that sketch. We can select this outer wall and create a thread. And Fusion automatically tries to find the closest thread to match your cylinder diameter, but you can adjust the settings yourself here. I'd rather go larger than smaller, so we're gonna go all the way up to 18. That also gives us this nice big 2.5 millimeter thread. The bigger the better, maybe even 20. No, that's still, yeah. I believe someone made a set of threads specifically for 3D printing that you can bring in. But I found that these isometric profiles actually do 3D print pretty darn well. Even though these angles are more than 45 degrees, printed vertically like this, that looks pretty steep. But since it's spiraling upwards, it prints easily, or more easily. I don't know exactly how to explain why that makes it easier, except for that it's not trying to print an entire ring overhung at once. It's kind of going around with the overhang. So there's only a little bit being overhung each new layer that the printer is putting down, if that makes any sense. Can the threads be printed perpendicular to the build plate? I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but we are going to split this in half. So the thread that is in here is going to be printed like this, actually. Like an arch. Wait a minute, that's not good. Oh, so that's why I had things the other way before. So we actually want to do the exact opposite here. We need the male portion of the thread to be coming out of this cylinder. Wow. Okay. So there might be a way to do it the way that I was just doing it, but that's not the way I want to do it. We're going to flip this all around. Let's see what I want to do. Yeah, because we got to make sure. Ah, I see. This is a little tricky. Well, really the only reason I want to have something thread on here is to hide the seam. So, we're going to change things a bit. Let's go back to this revolve. There's going to be a screw sticking out from the hydrant, and then this cap is going to screw on top. So for one thing, I might want it to stick out just a little bit more to give me a little more space to fit the thread. More of a challenge than I initially thought. Oh no, and that whole thing moved. That's what I get for trying to shortcut things. All right, let's get rid of that bolt for now. Okay, this will still work. This will still work. So, what I'm going to do this time is once again, I'm going to offset this to the point where it's just hitting the edge here. Like literally the point where it meets the edge, which looks to me to be exactly 16. Not exactly. It goes a little bit past, which is perfect. This will work. Okay. Okay. I'm going to delete everything after here. I'm going to sketch right here. Sorry, this is one of those things where I kind of have to work it out and figure it out as I'm going along, so it's hard for me to tell you guys exactly what I'm doing. But I guess there's not too many people who are actually going to try to follow along and build a fire hydrant. Maybe some of you, and hopefully you're able to. I mean, I'm streaming the entire process, so even if it's not the most efficient, it is in fact a way to do this. So let's just go like that and only cut it out of the hydrant. All right, so if we hide this, that's all we've got, and it's going to be printed sideways like this. So there's that overhang, but it gets smaller and smaller, and so it should print pretty easily. The thing is, we need it to be flat because this part is screwing in. Aditya, have the code be TP-3 in the code somewhere. I don't get it. I kind of missed the chat after asking about the fire hydrant codes. I get that it's Tippi. Oh, Tippi 3, TP3. Okay, that's pretty good. It sounds like Tippi Tree. I get it. I don't have to know the actual codes. Yeah, it's actually pretty fun. Maybe. Strat Magic. Will I do an unbox for the Ender 6 Core XY? No plans at the moment. Creality is so popular now, which maybe was partially my doing with the original Creality review I did. Although I was pretty late to the game with the CR10. But yeah, by now Creality is so popular that there's always tons of people doing unboxings and reviews that it's a little less helpful if I do one. When it comes to reviews, I try to find printers that are maybe underrated or like they're great, but they don't have the recognition that they should have. The SV01 I think I got really lucky with because I hadn't heard of it, but Sovol pitched it to me right when I was thinking, boy, I would love a direct drive printer. Or I was getting into them. I just got the Sidewinder, and then they're like, hey, we've also got a pretty great direct drive printer, and I went for it, and it was awesome. So I'm really happy with the SV01 still, to this day. Okay, anyways. Let's keep moving on, shall we? So this body is going to screw in like that, but the actual thread is going to be coming out of here. So we can actually draw that just as a sketch here. We can do a circle. And I think, well, maybe like a 15 or 16 will fit in here. We need to make sure not to get these walls too thin. Well, anyways. The diameter of this cylinder doesn't actually matter because once we use the thread tool, it's going to override it. But we can see how far in we want to go. We don't want to go too high up because, well, let's see. If it goes through at 12.3, so we want to probably have at least 2 millimeters of solid wall above that. So let's make that just 10. I think a 1 centimeter thread is enough for it to actually hold together. So there we go, we're cutting that out there. And while we're at it, we can turn that sketch on again and do an extrude. Basically the same exact thing, but as a new body. And that, well, actually we don't want to go all the way. You want to leave a little bit of a gap because for one thing there's going to be some drooping from the print, from the bridging here up top. And you also want to make sure that the bolt is completely tightened before it hits the end. So you might as well have a bit of a gap here. And then this edge will really be what stops it. This will be where it tightens. So we can make that 9.5. And we can join this to the, whoops. This we want to hide and have this join like that. So this section analysis actually shows exactly how this part is going to be split. It'll be printing like this, so this part just prints straight up like that, so there's no overhangs and no problems. This part, as you can see, this is the most overhang, but since it tapers to a point, that's going to be pretty much no problem as well. This is just yeah, looks like all of this can print quite nice and easily. And this is going to be half of the thread, and the other half of the thread will be on the other part. So, we're still not splitting it though. We're going to add the thread before we split it, because this isn't just going to be a mirrored part. It's literally one half of a screw and the other half of the screw. They're different parts that have to line up. All right, René, good night. Thank you for joining so far. And that's awesome. Yes, please come back and watch the rest of the stream tomorrow if you're unable to finish it tonight. Ooh! This section analysis just showed me that I still have this big seam right here that we don't actually want. So what I can do is use the press pull tool, which is perfect for this kind of thing where we're just trying to expand this cylinder. Right up until this point. The only reason I had that seam was so that I could create these two chamfers and create this fake seam, but we don't really want too much of a real seam. A little tiny thing like that is fine. Yeah, so this part is printed vertically, this part is printed vertically, and these two parts will be printed flat like that. And it's all going to be held together by the parts being threaded together. So the assembly itself is almost like a little puzzle of its own. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this thread then. We can turn off our section analysis and select our thread tool, model it, and it looks like with 15, the maximum pitch, or not the pitch, the thread size or whatever, 1.5 millimeters, but if we make it 16, we can go up to 2 millimeters. So let's do that. The class or whatever, I don't know what this actually means. I'm not an engineer, I'm just a designer. Right hand is the standard screw direction. If for some reason you want to make something puzzling, you can go do a left hand thread. But right hand is standard, so we're going to keep with that. And you can check this box to remember the size. And that's super handy because now we can go to our other body. And when we hit the thread tool on it, it is going to remember the size and it's going to apply the same thread, but as an internal thread. Another really cool thing about this tool in Fusion 360, it knows if you're selecting an inside, if you're selecting a hole or the outside of a cylinder, it'll create the appropriate thread. So there we go, we threaded both just like that. Now if we do the section analysis, you'll see that, there we go, that's how it threads together. And the thread tool does account for clearance. It does have some clearance. And yeah, the last few times I've done this, it's been the right amount of clearance. If I wanted to make it looser, if I just wanted to make it easier to thread together, you could use the press pull tool on one of these faces. And look at that, you can adjust the clearance like that. I won't do that for now, but maybe if I do a test print and it turns out to be a problem, then I can go ahead and adjust it like that. There we go, we've already got the thread going in. Like I showed you with this little fake thread, we're going to do the same thing here where we kind of taper the top so that it doesn't come to this really thin, sharp edge up top. I mean, one thing we can do is just apply a chamfer right there. Sometimes that works, but here you can see it gives us an error after not too long. So, no, let's just go ahead and select this side plane and do that little triangle that we're going to revolve cut away. As long as you're only cutting away from the thread, it won't mess with the ability to screw things on. Some of you have probably seen the recent print that was going kind of viral, which is a screw that you can thread on in both directions. And basically the way to do that is just to create a bolt that threads left hand and one that threads the right hand, and then do an intersect command. So the only parts that remain are the parts that exist in both directions. Oh, I don't know. I'm so bad at explaining things sometimes. If it didn't already go viral and become so popular, maybe I would do a tutorial on how to make it, but I try to be original, not just run off of other people's ideas too often. Anyways, there we go. I'm just eyeballing it, just trying to create a decent sized clean taper up top. I guess I want to go a little further in because look at that edge, it still comes to a point. So we'll bring this in a little more, like that. There we go. Now we're left with a nice circular top, and that thread tapers out. So this is already good to go. Now for this internal piece, we don't really need to do anything, but we can extrude this top bit up a bit and give it a tapered angle. That'll just, for one thing, the print won't have to bridge as much up here because the circle gets smaller. And it just gives us a little extra clearance. It does make this smaller. I know I planned it out to be 2 millimeters, and now I guess it's just 1 millimeter here. Let's see, 1.4, so it's still okay. Let's look at them both together. There you go. See, so there's plenty of space up here, which just means as you tighten it, it'll tighten down here first, which is good. The problem with this, I guess, is that if you tighten, you can over-tighten it. If you're like crazy strong and you tighten it so much, you'll actually break the print and rip this part off of the fire hydrant. So don't over tighten. All right, so that's one of our threads. I think I went too far though. I actually do want to make this top thicker. We don't need so many threads. I'm gonna make some changes. I'm gonna make a lot of changes actually. For one thing, I can make this 18. We're going to make these threads bigger. I'm going to make this 18 with a 2.5 thread. And then I'm going to go here and adjust it as well. Then we're going to go back to when I cut this in the first place. We're only going to make it go 8 deep. If you have too many threads, that just makes it more difficult to print and to do everything. So there we go. Whoops, what happened here? Kind of forgot what I was doing. I cut that, this one, oh yeah, we have to make sure this also only goes 7.9 or whatever. Merge. I forget what that offset was, but it doesn't seem like a big deal. This thing we can move since I didn't constrain it, so I kind of just have to manually place it like that. As long as there's still like 1 or 2 fully revolutions of thread, that's all you really need. And if I do too much more than that, it'll just be unnecessarily difficult to print, I guess. Oh, there is one other thing I want to do. I want to have a taper. Let's see if I hide this. I also like to do the same kind of chamfer on the bottom here, just to make it easier to slip on top of the thread. So once again, I'll do a revolve cut, and I'm doing the exact same thing, but cutting away on the inside of this thread with a little 45-degree slice of cheese, just like that. And just need to project something that gives us a center point for our revolution. And there we go. So that cuts away at the threads a bit, but that just makes it so it kind of self-centers on top of the nut, so it screws in more easily. So as you can see, there's definitely gaps, but there are still enough teeth that engage so that this will screw in no problem. So with that, our first actual thread is done. Now we need to split this thing in half. Before we do that, I'm going to throw the bolt on here. Let me just measure this again, and I'm just going to recreate it this time. So 6.5 across, and the thickness is 2.4. 6.5 and 2.4. Let's see if I can remember two numbers. I'm usually really bad at that. 6.5, 2.4. All right, so we're going to find the center. Make this 6.5. All right, I didn't have to remember the numbers for too long, so I was able to do it. 2.4. We'll make it a new body just so we can add those chamfers, which I remember were 0.3. My memory can be really bad or really good sometimes. Usually I remember really useless information really well, but then like remembering the names of people I meet and stuff is more challenging. You know, the stuff that's actually important for social skills, that's the stuff I have trouble remembering. All right, so that's pretty good. I was thinking about doing a chamfer here, but I feel like that's gonna look kind of weird. Yeah. Unless this cut goes further into the hydrant. Maybe it should. Which means I'd have to go back and hopefully not screw things up too much. Yeah, let's see what happens if we cut this just an extra 0.4. So that we can add a point. Oh, yeah, it wasn't even going all the way through. Extra 0.42. So we can add a 0.6 or so chamfer here. Oh, wait, it didn't update. Gulp. -16. Oh, okay. Is that right? Okay, I think I fixed it. Yeah, so I inset it just a little bit more so that I could add a chamfer. Nope, wrong one. Right on this edge. Four. Let's see how much it lets us do. 0.6? No, then it gets weird. 0.5. Perfect. That little seam is just going to make it easier to screw in as well. Looking pretty good. Now that we're adding all the other fire hydrant elements, the sort of weirdness of the top kind of fades out. Doesn't look so weird anymore to me. I might still want to add some kind of element on the top here, like, no, never mind. I was debating like another bolt on top or something. But, nah, think we're pretty close. Okay, so one down. Whoops, that was a good reminder that I need to combine these. There we go. 4 pieces. In total, this will be a 5-piece print. So this is already done, pretty much, unless we decide to add some extra details later on. I don't think they'll be necessary, but as you can see, this will be able to print flat like that, and it won't have any insane overhangs. It's got this top part, but that should be pretty easy to bridge because it's not very large at all. Nice. Oh, we probably do want to add a little bit of chamfer here just as protection from elephant foot. From that squashed first layer. As long as this gap is still large enough, 2.3. 2.4 would be better, because that would be 4 solid layers. So maybe we can move this in a little bit like that. Yeah, usually if I'm designing small parts, thin features, I try to make it exactly a multiple of the layer width if I can, because that just helps things print a little more cleanly. So there, it's 2.53. Now it's larger than 2.4, but that's better. It might have a little bit of extra gap in the middle. Well, that looks pretty good to me. Okay. So what do I call this? Hydrant cap? I don't know. I don't know the terminology of hydrants. What are you guys talking about in the chat? Am I dangerous? All right, now we just have to do 2 more threads. Basically what we just did. And then it's up to us if we want to add anything else, but that's pretty much the Tippi Hydrant right there. We're gonna finish it in 1 stream, and even quicker than half of the Tiki Tree. How cool is that? I don't know why, but whenever I stream, my nose starts itching. Is that like a nerve type thing? All right, I gotta stop staring, start doing. Let's do our remaining threads. Let me just think about this. Yes, okay. So, we'll start on the top. Basically, we're gonna create a cylinder again. And guess we'll make this one larger. Maybe 24. Whoops. No. And let's see how tall we can make that. Technically, we'll be able to go pretty high up, but I think 15 is enough. So, if we hide the top, it'll automatically join, but if we have the top, it'll do it as a cut. Let's do it as a cut first, and then let's do that same exact extrude. Although, we can leave that little gap on the top, 14.5 maybe. There we go. Now we go ahead and select this side and give it that thread. Let's see, 25 and 2. What? How come with the with the 18, it gives us a 2.5 profile, but at 25, the largest you can do is 2 millimeters. I don't really understand these profiles, but how about 26? No, only 1.5. So weird. I wish they gave us more options with the thread tool. I know you can do all of this with the coil tool. You can basically make a custom thread with the coil tool, which I do pretty often, but I don't think it's necessary here. But anyways, there we go, 20 and 2.5. Let's do that. Unless 22, I want to, oh, 3 millimeter. All right, there we go. We can get a nice big 3 millimeter thread by doing a 22 millimeter profile. So let's do that. And then let's also select this outer cylinder and once again, use that same thread tool. Bada boom. See, it's just so much quicker than making coils that that's how we're doing it today. So actually, while we're at it, I'm gonna just go ahead and do the bottom at the same time. We're gonna do pretty much the exact same thread, I think. Even though that means people will be able to assemble it upside down, but maybe I allow that. I always like letting people do things more than one way. So if you want to assemble the hydrant upside down, it'll look almost identical, but instead of this part being a little higher up, it'll be a little lower down. Or I could make it exactly symmetrical and then it wouldn't even matter which way you assemble it. There's always such weird things you can consider. Okay. We want to extrude from here. I'm going to do a 10 millimeter cut into the base. And then we'll select it again. Do another extrude from the object. Minus 9.5. We're going to join that here. There we go. Now I wonder, with this thread tool, can I select both of these faces? It says faces, plural, so I feel like I should be able to add the thread to multiple faces at the same time. Alas, it does not let me select that face. Whoa, let me select this one, but not that one. Okay, let's not get crazy here. Just kidding, I'm already crazy. Okay, no, let's just add these threads now as a new thing. Once again, I'm going to do 22 and 3. I could make them different, like I said, so that people don't mess it up, but whatever. Let people make mistakes. So we're going to select this as well, and once again, same exact thread. Since I checked the remember box, it automatically applies the same thread. So there we go. Why does this one look so... I thought I went 10 millimeters, but I must have gone deeper on that one. But it's also too much. How far did I go on this one? 15. Let's make that 10. Whoops. Okay. So here's another thing about using the join command instead of new body. See, the first time I did this, it joined only to the hydrant because this body was hidden. But that causes some problems sometimes, so I could instead do it as a new body and then use the combine command to join it like that. Same exact thing, but it leaves less of the decision making up to the software. See, once again, if well, no, it is fine. But see, now if I edit this and just hit join again, it joins it all together because there was no seam there. So yeah, let's do it the proper way and make it a new body. And then combine it. Nope, that's not what I'm trying to select. There we go. Now I got all confused with the threads. No, face is not missing. Right there. So what are you guys printing today? Woohoo! There's our second thread. Now we're going to do the same thing with the tapers, just to make it a little friendlier for the user. So let's hide the top and the bottom. And add these little wedges to cut away. And I'll create a mid-plane here so I can... Whoops, that's not the mid-plane. There we go. I will save soon once I finish this sketch. Whoops, we've got two middle points here. Which one is the true middle point? There we go. Just so we can mirror this. Pop. Make this 45. I'm not going to wear my Bop It suit. For one thing, it's tucked away in the attic right now. Although I have wondered, I was wondering recently whether, I wonder if it still works. My Bop It costume. There were some rubber bands in the design that I am worried about them getting brittle and breaking. I tried to mostly use springs, but I do remember the flick it mechanism did involve a rubber band. So hopefully that rubber band is still good, so that one day when I am ready to revisit my Bop It past, I'll be able to. Alright, so we did the little chamfer there, and now we'll do the opposite chamfers on these parts to make it easier to slip on. I'm going to create a center point again so that we can do both at the same time. And then we'll create our little triangle to cut out here. Mirror that. And then we can revolve both of those. Let's see how that looks. Pretty good. We'll do the same thing here as well. Well, this one is going to be printed upwards, so there's not any bridging at all that has to happen for this design. But I'll still extrude it down just a tiny bit. Just so we need a little clearance. You always want a little clearance for things to wiggle around. This one on top is bridging, so we definitely need some clearance to allow for a little bit of drooping. Actually, we have a lot of space here. We could even do like a big ol' thing like that. So it comes nearly to a point. So there's like no bridging required whatsoever. That's really ideal. For this one, there's not quite enough space to do that, is there? If I design things a little bit differently, well, hey, look, we can even make it go all the way through. Ooh! I still didn't stick the bolt on there. I thought I did. Oh, I added it later, right? So that bolt will actually allow it to almost come to a point. Let's just do it that far. I don't know. The more it tapers, the less of a bridge there is. I don't think it would cause a problem either way, but That looks nice and safe. All of these parts have no real threatening overhangs. And then we've got the middle section that we just need to split in half, and then it's a fillet fun time, and we're pretty much done. We're only 2 hours in, and I'm being all slow and everything. Wow. So if I was just designing this on my own, I probably could have done the whole thing in like hour and a half. All right, Sam. I wish there was some way to do like an interactive bop it in the chat, but what you're doing is not that. Now, don't make me slow mode it. You're on timeout, buddy. Yes, I love exercising my power. Okay. Sorry, I was distracted. But really, all we gotta do is split this in half, and functionally it's ready to go. So, the split here, we could just draw a straight line and use the split tool. Yeah, I think I will. I was debating whether I need to add a bit of wiggle room, but usually if anything, the print gets a little bit squashed from being against the build plate. So I think there won't be any real problems. Wait, no, I don't want to go this way. We're trying to go vertically. So we'll use split body, select that line, slices it in half just like that. And now we can print these flat. Should print just fine. Now, once again, we have the risk of a little bit of elephant footing, so we could put some tiny chamfers here. I don't know what chamfer it'll allow us. It probably won't allow us to do any chamfer because there's some weird little sections here, but let's see. Yeah, see, it gives me an error if I try to just chamfer all of these edges at once. Even a 0.1. Oh, it does let me do a 0.1 or even a 0.2. Impressive. That's probably all we need. Let's see if we can do 0.3. Ooh, 2.5. I like that it highlights the errors and be like, this is why you can't do it. Right here, that little point, that's the problem. Yeah, see how it's doing that? Which means I could go around and select everything except for that little edge, right? Now I can do 0.4. I just have to physically go around and select every single edge. And 0.4 is actually a bit much. Oh, now that's a problem? I think 0.3 is going to do the job here. Really, all of this is maybe a little unnecessary. But for someone, it's going to make it easier to print. Yeah, something like that works. All right, here we go, all around selecting edges. How's the chat doing? Yes, GNZ, I did finish the roots on my tiki tree. I showed it off earlier in the stream. It looks so good. I will definitely have a real video where I show off the end results of the tiki tree. It just looks so cool. I can't get over it. I mean, I intentionally made the original Tippi Tree look very simple. That was the look I was going for. But the look of this tiki tree is also just so awesome that it makes me very glad that I decided to do this concept of adding skins. It's not that I'm not happy with the original Tippi Tree design, but I like having multiple. All right, we're almost there with this half. Then we got to go around and do this on the other half. These are the kind of tasks where I wish an AI existed, that you could just be like, okay, Siri, can you just go ahead and chamfer all the edges right here? And you know, it would understand exactly what you mean. I'm going to add a chamfer here around the edges too. I think that'll look nice. We might increase that, but let's leave that for now. There's how that will look. Yeah, see, that chamfer will just create a little more of a distinct seam right there. Cool. There's one half. Now let's do the other half after I save. No, I didn't run the code from last stream. I discovered the nefarious tactics of that scheme to rickroll me before it was too late. No, I ended up doing all the roots manually, actually. I did them by hand. Right, I was going to show you guys how I did that at the beginning of this stream, but Fusion crashed. So, if we have time, I'll open up that... Uh-oh, what did I break already? What's going on? If we have time, yeah, we'll go look at that file and I'll show you how I went ahead and did all the roots. But basically, I just drew it manually. And it took a good while, but not too long. It would have taken me longer to learn how to make a script and program it, for example. All right. So I'm holding Control. That allows me to select all of these. And then when I release Control, it basically gives me a preview. And I always do that every now and then, just to make sure I haven't accidentally selected an edge that won't work. Just to make sure it's still valid as we go around. Because it kind of sucks to select 1,000 edges and then you realize there's an error somewhere. At least this way, where I'm checking pretty often, if there's an error now, I'll be like, oh, there's an error somewhere here. And Fusion also does this thing where it highlights the problematic edge, which is also super handy. But sometimes there's just little tiny edges that you just won't see. All right, I think that's everything. Oh wait, I did want to select these, right? Yes. Boom, there we go. Pop it all together, and there we go. How cool is that? You got a little bit of a seam there. I'd say that's not too invasive. Ooh, maybe we do try what do you think about making a welding seam here? Like kind of making it bubble out. So it looks like an actual intentional seam of some sort. That might be fun. Since it is on the back of the fire hydrant, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about this because it's pretty fun. You've got these two halves, but it's all held together by a cap, by the threads on the top and bottom and here. So now we can make it all red. Let's do a quick render. Now that it's more or less done. Wow, that is a shiny fire hydrant. Oh, I wanted it to be centered on the circle. But anyways, this is just a little... The placement of this fire hydrant is a little awkward on the sidewalk. That looks good. Happy birthday, I can do. I will give you a happy birthday shout out. Even though some people just will fake it for the sake of a for the sake of a shout out. All right, here are the shout outs. I want to give some shout outs. You guys have been in the chat for a long time, keeping it interesting. David and Hidri, Robert, Sam, I can do, Aaron, Aditya, Dennis, Mo, Ryan, GNZ, Charles, everyone. Take down Shane. Thank you for joining the chat. Cast it in a mold with welding seams. Yeah, Andrew, a fluted column to hide the seam. The thing is, you have to be able to print both sides flat. So it's not as easy as one would think. But I did consider that. But I kind of like the idea of just two little bubble seams, like a weld. I think that'll look really good. I mean, look at this render. It already looks amazing. I think it looks fantastic. But you know, that's just me tooting my own horn. Yeah, you know what? Let's do welding seams. I know that the big fillets would be like fun and playful, and that's kind of like how the original design was that René drew. Something like that. But for one thing, the fillets, as you can see, the size of the fillets changes as it goes around because it's following this kind of curved circle. So we're just going to do some bubble seams. Although we can't do one here because this is being screwed on. So would it be weird if these have welding seams and this doesn't? It would maybe be a little bit weird. I mean, I could go around and add those seams around here too, kind of. It's an interesting idea. And I feel like I'm gonna do it, and then it's gonna make me be like, oh, then I have to do it here as well. Oh, and then I have to do them around here as well, and then I'll end up doing it everywhere, and then the whole design ends up being just as detailed as the tiki tree. So the question really comes down to, what's the look and feel we're going for here? It is so tempting to add all this detail because with 3D printing, you can add all that detail and it doesn't really cost anything extra to print it. But is it going to elevate the design? That's the question. I feel like these could even be a little bigger now. What do you think about making these larger? I think they should be. Gosh, is that something I can change? I did that quite a while back in the timeline. I don't know if I can change that without damaging something, but let's do a quick test. If I just make these 9.5, so an extra 2 millimeters around. Yeah, I think that looks better. Wow. Isn't Fusion awesome? That you can just say, oh, that thing I did an hour or two ago, I want to change that. And it'll update it all. I love it. Keep them small? Y'all disagree with me? You dare to disagree with me? Just kidding. I think, yeah, I am going to make them stick out a little less as well. Sorry, I'm taking some, doing some things my way. I don't know. This is definitely one of those things where everyone can have their own opinion on little tiny changes. I like that. I feel like that looks a little more proportional with, because I did make this larger than the original as well. I'm really happy with how it looks now. And I'm actually going to change away from the metallic because 3D prints, well, I guess I do have some metallic. I've got like the Polyalchemy Elixir filament, but it's not a fire hydrant red. So I'll probably end up just using another red filament I have. So it'll look more like this. Probably less reflective, a little more matte of a finish. Something like that. Nice bright red fire hydrant. Looks very playful. All right. So yeah. Do we do the welding seams? Let's do some around here. I honestly think it wouldn't look that weird if I just did it around these and not this one, because this has its own kind of detail going on. And it would be kind of fun to do it here. It's kind of a different type of, it's an interesting little thing that I haven't done. I haven't done any sweeps. I did some lofts with the Tiki Tree, so let's do a sweep. So I'm going to select the center plane. I'm going to, well, I can eyeball it, honestly. I can kind of just draw the circle here and be like, all right, this welding seam, it's going to have a little 1.6 millimeter bead. And the bead is going to kind of be like that. Hit finish. Sweep. Select that face. Select this edge. And that's all there is to it. You can even join it. Although, oh, I don't know, that might, if I hit join now, it might cause everything to join. Let's see. Oh yeah, so we'll do it as a new body. That looks pretty nice, actually. That's a fun little detail. I think that looks really good. Maybe we'll make it 2 millimeters. Make it a little more cartoonish. Good call, good call. Who was that? Sorry, I don't remember who was in the chat. Someone suggested the welding seams. Wow. I told you, my memory can be really good or really bad. Wow, that looks so good. All right, sweet, good idea. Let's mirror that to the other side. I'm stoked on that. Good call, good call. So let's actually, should we do them around these rings? That's where it gets close with those nuts. Maybe just do a fillet here. Yeah. I don't think this even would be welded. This part would probably be cast as a single part. Let's just do that. We'll do a fillet here too. It's time for the fillets, baby! Well, actually that's about all. There's not as many fillets as we might like. Yeah, whether I do that same seam back here though, that's another question. Don't forget print orientation. There will be a shallow curve where that layer will need to cover that weld. It's going to be printed like this, correct? So this curve here is shallow. You will notice the layer lines, but it's such a small detail. I think it'll look good. I think it'll look good. Still don't know if I want to do that same thing here. Kind of prefer it just being around these little things. Kind of want to call it. I think it's almost done. I mean, maybe, let's see what happens if we can, how it looks to fillet this. We do have some leeway around here, but no, this kind of gets weird. Yeah. I don't think we really want to fillet these. It turns into like a really weird blend because you got all these different angles at all these different. Like even that, the way that this comes to a point, I don't really like that. think we're just gonna leave it. Let's combine this. There we go. We've got middle, we'll call it middle A, middle B. Cap, top, base. Split up beautifully. Wow. I could start printing this, but too much time setting up and whatnot. It's just so weird being done so quickly. There's not really anything else I feel like I want to add. I could make anything logo on the bottom here. But no, not even. After all, René von Koolwijk did a good amount of the work too, coming up with the original design, so not the type of thing I want to slap my logo onto. Maybe just do that text, Tippi Tree. Where should that go? Let's see if from these photos, there's a logo down here on this one. It would be kind of fun to get an actual, like, not 3D printed, but a physical chain to attach around like this. Yeah, they all do have this kind of bolt on the top, which is unfortunately where the Tippi Tree is, so we can't really stick that same bolt here. I mean, I could cut down further, but yeah. Well, yeah. I don't think there's any way to add that bolt without making the dome even less dome-like, and I think this is as good of a dome as we want. Let's see what else there might be. So they have text around this ring here. Look, there's not even bolts here. How's that? I don't know what's going on there. There's so many different fire hydrants. It's pretty wild. Yeah, I could have made all the parts screw on separately just so you can make them different colors like this. But no, I think 5 parts is enough. You could still go ahead and, if you wanted to, you could, come on, let me. Weird. It's glitching. Good time to save. It's not letting me pull up the appearance panel. Oh, just kidding. That's because it's already open. Yeah, if you want to, you can still make that a different color. Although it's kind of weird if it's just that one. You do something like that too. With the 5 parts, there's definitely potential to do some different colors. But I like it just all classic fire truck red. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, there are the indents. That is something that I considered. Like these things. Some fire hydrants have them, some don't. The original submission even has it on the drawing, but not on the render. I mean, here, it would I could do like 4, but I'm not sure if that would actually add to it. And down here, there's so little space. It's already pretty dense because we made a little short and stubby version of it. I'm not gonna add anything besides the little lettering, TP3. I liked that idea. So we'll stick that on the back. I'm gonna do an offset plane so we're behind it. And then go here. And we wanna print it on one of the vertical parts because that's how you get small text. Well, this would technically be vertical as well if we want to do it sideways along that line. What do you think? Should the text be sideways along the line or just around the bottom here? Or nothing. Maybe that's just too much. That's just trying to make it all super detailed, but... Yeah. I think I'm trying to think of something to do, but the truth is I'm happy with how it is right now. So this is the leaky hydrant. Voila. The last thing we would do, which is something I sometimes do in other software, or sometimes I'll do it here in Fusion, which is just orient everything correctly. I use an application on my Mac called Pleasant 3D, which is just a simple G-code and STL viewer. But what I like is that it has an ability to rotate and scale your STL files and then resave them. So I always try to make sure I'm uploading my things at the correct orientation. So that's kind of how things would be here. This will go like that. Maker Owen. I studied product design at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Product design is so awesome, according to me. It is my passion to make things. And product design is basically professional making or professional designing. It's more dealing with the visual elements of things. Industrial design is kind of very similar to product design, but maybe with a little more engineering. Look at that. All our parts laid out. I was looking at something that I still wanted to potentially change. Ah, yes, these points. You can actually throw a chamfer on that. I'm going to make it match these other threads. That's where I tapered it so that it would connect a little easier, but let's get rid of that point because that could cause some trouble. Just all of these ones that come to points. I mean, this one almost does. Really, it won't matter too much, but make this as easy as possible for people to assemble. That's the goal. And we can actually do some here too if we wanted to. Yeah, with the threads, I mean, you'd think that you don't want to mess with the threads at all, but as long as you're only subtracting away from them, you're not likely to create anything that'll break your threads. There we go. I think I got all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Da, da. This one. Does this need anything? Right there. All right. Cool. Is the base wide enough for the whole thing not to tip? Yeah, it is going to be more likely to tip than the original, of course. The base is smaller, but actually, despite the name Tippi Tree, it's usually not the tree that tips over. It's usually the leaves that fall off the tree first. But yeah, this is going to be a little bit more of a challenge. You could weight it. That would be interesting, actually. Since we do have a compartment here, I theoretically could have made this thread large enough. Or I could, ooh, hold on. Okay, that's kind of a fun idea. We could open this up to make it a kind of secret compartment. And imagine if it's just the right size to fill with pennies so that you could weight the bottom of the print. That's kind of fun. And technically, I mean, it would probably take some experimentation, but if I experimented enough, I could kind of see how many trees it takes for the normal tree to tip over. And then I could find out how much weight I need to add for this version not to tip over. But then it's like, oh, people are printing this all over the world, so not everyone has the same size coins. But it's also optional. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it as a little optional bonus, because that just sounds fun. Diameter of a penny. (19.05 millimeters). Right after I say that I don't want to give myself unnecessary tasks, I start doing something like this, huh? Well, you know what? This might be too small anyways. Yeah. We would have to go change all the threads to make the penny fit in there. Or would we? It might be exactly... Oh, it's so close. It would cut away the threads a bit. Because it's 19.05, they said? And we'd want to add some tolerance of like 0.3. Oh, that barely cuts away. We can do it. Cuts away a little bit of the thread, but that's not a big deal. First of all, is this centered? I don't think so. Oh, it is. It's around the origin. Ha! That's fun. Okay. There's gonna be a secret penny compartment. Dimes work too, but why choose the more expensive coin? You can weigh this thing down for 10 cents instead of $1. So 2 sides. I'm just gonna go down to, well, it takes 13 to go down, and we want to give it a little bit of a thickness, so we'll make it 11. There's a little penny compartment. How fun is that? What's the thickness? 1.52 millimeters. So let's say 1.6. How much did I do it? 11? 11 divided by 1.6. Okay, so 11 divided by 7. Looks like we'll be able to maybe just barely fit 7 pennies in there. What did it say? 1.7, 1.5. Yeah. Yeah. 7 pennies. Is that enough weight to do anything? I don't know, but if anything, it's a little secret compartment inside of your Tippi tree. It can't hurt. I think it's a pretty fun idea. We'll give that a little 0.4 chamfer. 0.2 even. Just so that there's not a weak point. Ha! What a funny little addition. Okay, now it's done. For now. Maybe I'll go back one day and add something, but for today, it's done. I will slice it today, but yeah, I don't have my preferred slicer on this computer. And I need to go get filament and everything, so I'm not going to do that as a live stream today. But thank you guys so much for joining through the design of this fire hydrant. I'll hang out for 20 more minutes or so, since it'd be nice to make it a straight 90 or a straight 3-hour stream, wouldn't you say? So let's chat. Let's chat in the chat. Aditya, make a hydrant Springo. That sounds really fun, but a Springo has to be printed as a single part. And therefore, these overhangs would not be okay. And therefore, I don't think there's any easy way to do it. I mean, yeah, you can make a Springo with parts that screw on. It would get super crazy. So probably not is my answer. Yeah, if you print it completely solid and maybe with a little increase the flow of your print to like 103%, you could probably make this watertight and you have a little bit of a compartment inside for water. Why you would want to do that, I have no idea. Zachary, I turned 29 years old in September. If you want to mark your calendars, September 23rd is my birthday. I look forward to the happy birthdays in 8 or 9 months. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you guys the roots of the tiki tree and how I went about doing that. So here's the tiki hydrant. Tiki hydrant, leaky hydrant. Let's open up our split skin and see if we don't crash the computer again. Whoops, did I just open and close it right away? I should close this. I saved it, we're good to go. So I can close it. Yeah, the tree roots from my tiki tree. So this is the other Tippi Tree skin I designed last week, for those of you who missed it. Very complex. This took me twice as long and a little longer because I spent probably another hour or two just working on those final parts, splitting it up and making it a tree, or making the roots. Why is one leaf missing? Where's that one leaf? Oh, there. So, hold on. What's going on here? Oh, right. I forgot that after I made this, I moved all the rocks and everything into little clumps so that I could make STL files with all of these parts in one. Because these parts are so tiny. And you guys were laughing at me for spending time modeling the tiny rocks during the stream. And yeah, they are incredibly tiny, but those details do show up. Let me see if I can show you again. Once again, I'll give you guys a better look at this with nicely filmed this and that in the future, but I am just so excited about how this came out. I can't help but share it. Look at that awesome tiki tree. And yeah, look how tiny the rocks get. I had to use tweezers to get these into place. But the plants came out looking super good. What's really fun about splitting this up is I was able to print the whole guy at like 0.16 millimeter layer height like I normally do. But then just for the little things like the leaves, I went all the way down to 0.1 layer height. And look how smooth they are. That is just some of the smoothest print action I've ever done. And I was worried about the lines not showing up, but they show up so well, so no problems at all. And yes, these roots are so tiny. And like I was saying earlier in the stream, when I do really tiny parts like that, I am considering the printing part of it, and therefore I use multiples of the line width. So I generally assume that most people are printing with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. This model is designed for a 0.4 millimeter nozzle. It might work with a 0.6 or even a 0.8, but for example, these smallest roots, these are exactly 0.8 millimeters wide. So it's just enough for the printer to draw both sides. And there's a chamfer at the top, so this top line is usually done as a single line. Super tiny details. Then that moves up to this one that's 1.6, another, or 1.2, so that's like 3 layers side by side, and then this is 1.6, which is 4 layers side by side. And let's see if we can't go back and see the process of doing that. I talked a little bit about how I made the cutouts for these parts. So as you can see, there's clearance around each of them so that you can stick them into place. It's pretty cool. Let's see. How much money to purchase the model? You have to get a printer and print it yourself. And in that case, it's included with Tippi Tree. So you can thank the winners of the competition for making this happen, honestly. So here it is. Here's the original sketch. This was split into 2, but basically I drew the different widths one at a time. So here are the final ones, and I dimensioned everything. So it's exactly 0.8. So it was pretty tedious, but it worked. So as you can see, I first did it just as straight extrusions. So the 1.2 wide, I also extruded it 1.2 up. These ones that are 1.6 wide are also 1.6 tall. And that's kind of how I created this effect of it kind of tapering away, even though it's only 3 discrete sizes. But yeah, extrude straight up and then do a little chamfer on all the edges, like that. And then you got that perfect combination of organic and super digital Tippi Tree style. Chainsaw Rosary. Have you ever tried roto casting? I haven't. I was thinking about it though, specifically with Tippi Tree, because it would be ideal for making like the Tippi Tree leaves, but having them be hollow. But they could still be cast out of urethane or resin. I mean, the problem is that's messy. Just like resin printing, any kind of work with resin is messy. So I kind of stay away from it for the most part. But you can do some super cool stuff with casting, so eventually I gotta do it. KSL Cows. The model will be included with the Tippi Tree download once I announce that formally in my video. I'll have a video coming out pretty soon, because on top of having these new Tippi Tree skins, I've got some other little things that I'll also add to the download. But no need to wait. If you know you're gonna buy Tippi Tree, buy it now, and then you can just download it again once I announce all these special skins. They'll be included in the download at no extra cost. And to everyone who did already buy Tippi Tree, thank you so much. You guys are really helping out. I consider it a total success. I've sold over 2,000 Tippi Trees. There's a lot of Tippi Trees out in the world. And I've heard so many people who buy it say they've printed 4 of them as gifts for family and friends. So for all I know, there might already be 10,000 Tippi Trees out in the world. And that is what's so freaking awesome about 3D printing and letting people be their own manufacturers. Sure, I could have invested a good chunk of money to get to the point where I can actually produce 10,000 Tippi Trees for sale. And I would have earned more money, probably, but this is like, 3D printing is so awesome as a creator. I can distribute my game to a pretty large audience, and I didn't have to invest in injection molding. I invested a lot of time to design the game and to print it just right. There's still a lot of work that goes into it. I'm not trying to say that's not the case, but it's just such an awesome system. And I feel like the people who are buying it and printing it, it's so much more satisfying that you have some part in the creation of the game, even if it's just printing it. The fact that you print something yourself, and anyone out there who has a 3D printer, you know this to be true. If you design the silliest little part, as ugly as it looks, if you made it and designed it and printed it out and it works, that's so satisfying. I literally try to fix everything with my 3D printer. Even if it's like something that I could go to the store and buy a $5 part, I would rather spend 5 hours designing it and printing it myself, because I'll be so much more satisfied when I use it. Another thing that I'll probably show in another video, even though it's kind of random, is I fixed the tray that goes underneath the water dispenser on my refrigerator. Under no normal situations would you care at all about the tray that goes under the water dispenser on your refrigerator. But I made it, and now every day when I fill up my glass of water, I see it and I'm like, yeah, I made that, and it's satisfying. Something so silly. So, anyways, that's my rant on why 3D printing is awesome. Yeah. Where would I be without 3D printing? Tippi Tree probably would not exist. Make anything almost certainly wouldn't exist as it does nowadays. So anyways, that's how the roots were done. For these plants, if I hide the tree, you can see that I flattened the bottom of all of these. Then I copied all of them, and then I did shell command on all of them. And I also expanded these down a little bit so they sink down into the tree. But by giving it a 0.15 millimeter shell, when I cut that away from the tree, that adds the clearance. So now you can see there's space around here. Otherwise, the parts wouldn't really fit into place. If that makes sense. You see, I can hide this now, and you'll see that there's actually indentations for all the different parts to fit onto the Tippi Tree. So that's how you make a multicolor part without needing a multicolor printer. Honestly, I think it's a better way to do things. It takes way more time on the design side, but when you can print the parts separately, there's no purge blocks. If something fails, you only have to reprint that one part, you know? Multi-part 3D prints, they should be more popular than they are. Everyone loves doing print-in-place models, myself included, but that's mostly a novelty. A lot of the times you can make something better just by splitting it into a few parts and having it be really easy to assemble. Case in point, our leaky hydrant today. All right, well, it's lag time, so that means the stream is just about done. I was gonna draw it out to 3 hours, but I've said all I have. I've professed my love for 3D printing. Jacob Donan, what color should you dye your hair? Purple. All right. With that, I'm going to call it a day. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you guys learned a little something, or at least passed the time. And you will have the Leaky Hydrant and the Tippi Tree available for download very soon. But that's it for today. I've got to go because I've got to actually get a video done for you guys. If you haven't noticed, I've been streaming for the past 3 weeks. And that's because I've been putting together a pretty fun project. I'm so excited for the next video. Anyways, that's my little teaser. It's a puzzle. That's all I'll tell you. Oh, also I got a laser cutter. Yes, so many cool stuff coming out. Okay, that's enough. I just don't want to end the stream and be all alone again. Carol, call me back. Just kidding. Bye.